Hello everyone, Assistant Narrator Richardson here. And I kind of feel for this SCP, you know. I have quite bad OCD myself. I mean, not as bad as cleaning, but I do have to check stuff multiple times and it has to be a certain number of times before I can relax. So yeah, anyway, let's start this SCP, shall we? Item number SCP-6931. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. The inhabitants of Sunsky have been persuaded to assist in the containment of information regarding SCP-6931, on the understanding that a leak is liable to result in vastly increased tourism to the area. As such, they will continue the prior tradition of not discussing it with outsiders. Anyone moving away is to receive Class C amnestics to remove any knowledge of SCP-6931, as are any outsiders who become aware. SCP-6931 can only be observed. Cameras and microphones have been set up within all abandoned, sparsely used and/or public buildings. Efforts to identify SCP-6931 are ongoing. Description: SCP-6931 is a class undetermined spectral entity active in the village of Sunsky, Lithuania. The entity resembles a young man dressed in the ragged uniform of the Army of Congress Poland. Every other day at 5:30 AM local time, SCP-6931 will manifest in a random two-story structure within the village. It shows a preference for empty buildings. Should none be available, it will appear in minimally occupied ones, and perform a routine, the elements of which also manifesting unless present. This routine constitutes the following. The entity appears in a bed, as though sleeping. It awakens, after which it neatly remakes the bed. It washes itself in the bathtub, or any receptacle large enough to contain it. This will spontaneously fill with water prior to contact. It dresses itself. The entity will put its trousers on backwards, before removing and donning them correctly. It descends the stairs, taking exactly 8 steps. SCP-6931 will jump or return up steps to meet this number, before sitting at the table consuming a bowl of milk soup and potatoes, with a piece of bread. It polishes its boots whilst humming an unidentified piece of music. It repeats the tune twice before completion, after which it will clear its throat 8 times and put on its boots. It cleans its rifle, then recites the Lord's Prayer. It exits the building through the front door. The entity will demanifest as it crosses the threshold. This routine is exactly was stricken from the record, more or less identical across manifestations, see Addendum 10, and usually takes approximately 40 minutes. SCP-6931 is unable to perceive human beings. On further investigation, this is incorrect. SCP-6931 will not acknowledge others, but it will glance repeatedly at them. It also displays some hesitation in acting out its routine in their presence. Addendum 10. Recording devices have demonstrated some infrequent discrepancies between routines. Examples include the following. SCP-6931 spends 5 minutes adjusting its bedsheet. The entity takes the stairs in 9 steps. The routine continues as normal until SCP-6931 is into the second round of the music. It pauses, then sighs, returns to the top of the stairs, takes them in 8 steps, and repeats the ritual, including miming eating its breakfast again. It unties and reties its bootlaces 24 times. Without any prior inconsistencies in the routine, the entity hesitates whilst on its way to the exit. It is still for about 90 seconds, mumbling inaudibly to itself, before swallowing, turning and repeating the entire routine from the beginning. Whilst cleaning its boots, it repeatedly tries and fails to make an interval in the tune, until it abruptly lets out a yell and throws a boot across the floor. It sits with its head in its hands until its breath stops shaking. Len retrieves the shoe and continues as normal. SCP-6931 spends the entirety of its manifestation standing at the window, staring at the sunrise. Shortly before demanifesting, it is heard to quietly say, "Maybe next time, my friends." At no point during the recording is its face visible. I do feel for this SCP, you know. Poor thing. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Hello, Creepy Otter here, just a few things. I really do have OCD, not the cleaning type. I wish it was the cleaning type. Maybe I'd be a bit more tidy. No, I'm just joking. But I do have things like checking door handles 20 times, flicking the switches on and off, on and off, and on off to make sure they're off, even though you know they're off. Turning the faucet off and then making sure it's off again by turning it on. Honestly, if you know someone with OCD like that, just give them a hug or just say you feel them, because honestly it's not that great, but we live with it. Anyway, a few things before I go. Patreon is in the description if you want to support me. My Twitter if you want to see updates. This SCP was made by Sound Chaser, so yeah, honestly I like this SCP a lot. So I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.